Chapter 24:12 Faulty Talisman 3. A monster that is above the Emperor level. A faulty teleportation talisman. And the missing Universe City people? I have a bad feeling about this. The Sky Marshal Academy Vice President's face was grave. We are not at all familiar with the Wailing Well, and this is the first time it is being used in the Inter-Academy competition. Things are indeed not looking good. The Cold Cloud Academy Vice President's face was equally grim. Taking in a deep breath, Wen Qi tried to subdue the uneasiness in his heart. He watched the situation at Yi Qing's end with a very tense expression. We can only see what is happening on their side and have no way to communicate with them. Without the teleportation talisman, they are unable to leave the Wailing Well. Is there really no other way out of the Wailing Well? I don't know. After all, none of us here have ever entered before. The various academies were growing increasingly anxious at the current situation. The top students from the academies had entered the Wailing Well. In just a few more years, those young, energetic teenagers would become prominent figures in the various mainlands in the second domain, carving out their own niche. But now, they were all trapped inside the Wailing Well. If they were unable to find a way to leave the Wailing Well, they would forever be trapped inside. And there was that monster above Emperor level. It was not something that they could defend against. Lu Yuanxiang and the others were able to survive only because the monster had been underground and it hadn't fully emerged yet when they escaped. If it had fully surfaced, it would be certain death for Lu Yuanxiang's team. There was also luck within their misfortune. Any team which encountered the monster after it fully emerged, they would probably be, just as the academy leaders were feeling an oppressive sense of despondence. The screen showing one of the Heaven Dome Academy teams was suddenly obscured by blood. The 11-strong team had been traveling across a marsh when they were suddenly attacked by a massive black figure. In the blink of an eye, everyone, including the teacher, was transformed into a bloody pulp. The only teenager lucky enough to survive had lost both his legs. Whimpering and dragging his blood-soaked stumps, he crawled toward the space ring dropped by his teacher. As the black figure approached him, he took out the teleportation talisman from the space ring and crushed it. A sliver of hope flashed across the teenager's eyes. But as the talisman was gradually crushed, a gigantic black shadow shifted over his head. The teenager was completely crushed into bits by the time the shadow engulfed him. 11 lives were lost in the blink of an eye. And that little ball floating in midair recorded it all. The massive black figure walked past the little ball. Its body far exceeded the scope shown by the little ball. The image captured by the little ball was just the tip of the iceberg. How gigantic was that monster? Silence enveloped the hall. Everyone watched the bloody scene and the ground covered in pulverized flesh. And everything had happened too quickly. Even those on the outside and watching the screen did not have time to react. There was only one scene which they managed to see very clearly. The teleportation talisman had been crushed, and it failed to work again. The final surviving teenager had died while still holding to that sliver of hope. Gasps shattered the heavy silence across the hall. Chapter 24:13 Desperate Straits 1. This monster doesn't look like the one who attacked the Netherworld Academy team. One of the teachers muttered with eyes widened in shock. His statement was like the straw which broke the camel's back. The entire hall was engulfed in dead silence. It only meant that there was more than one monster that was above the Emperor level inside the Wailing Well. And Lu Yuanxiang's teleportation talisman was not the only faulty one. Damn it, what the hell is happening? What are those Universe City idiots trying to do? We cannot let them remain inside the Wailing Well. If they encounter those monsters, none of them will make it out alive. At this point, everyone realized just how serious things were. This year's Inter-Academy competition was clearly a trap. But why would the Universe City people do this? Send men to search every inch of Universe City. We need to know why they are doing this. And what exactly is going on in the Wailing Well? The Sky Marshal Academy Vice President's face was grim. The other academy leaders agreed and immediately dispatched their own men to investigate the situation inside the city to try and find some clues. We need to find a way to get them out. Wen Qi started with a frown. Having seen what happened to the Heaven Dome Academy team, when she realized that Lu Yuanxiang's team was already considered rather lucky. But this kind of luck would not repeat itself. Those above Emperor-level monsters seem to have only recently appeared, someone asked. The team competition was nearing the end, and there had been no sign of any monsters which were beyond Emperor level. But today, there were 2 consecutive sightings. Lu Yuanxiang's team was the first batch to encounter such a monster, and that monster seemed to have just burrowed out from underground. Soon after, the Heaven Dome Academy team encountered an above Emperor-level monster which was clearly moving freely above ground. As a result, their outcome was much worse. Do you mean that these above Emperor-level monsters only appeared today? I'm not sure, but it certainly feels like it. Moreover, I have a bad feeling about this. 2 such monsters have already appeared, and we don't know just how many of them are in the Wailing Well. Also, the first 2 monsters are of different species. As they continued to analyze the situation and come up with their own conjectures, the situation seemed to become increasingly dire. Was this an accident? Or was this intentionally caused by someone? If it was an accident, why had the Universe City people all disappeared? Why were the teleportation talismans not working? If it was intentional, which terrifying character came up with such a bold plan to scheme against the top academies? How did this formidable person manage to control these above Emperor-level monsters? The current state of affairs was extremely dire. Even more depressing was the fact that the Academy leaders had no way to communicate this information to the teams inside the Wailing Well. Still in the dark, those oblivious teams had no idea of the danger they were in. They still thought it was a normal team competition. Everyone in the hall knew very well what would happen toward the last stage of the team competition. We must find an exit out of the Wailing Well immediately. Try to find some way to communicate with the people inside. We cannot let them start fighting each other. When Qi clenched his fists, I'm afraid we can't contact them, the Cold Cloud Academy's Zhang Yunzhou said with a deep sigh. Chapter 2414, Desperate Straits, 2. Zhang Yunzhou said, the rules of this year's team competition were already rather strange right from the start. No one was allowed to bring any special artifacts, and we are unable to communicate with the teams. The only way to inform them about the situation is to send someone in to spread the news. But Zhang Yunzhou paused before continuing. The various teams are too scattered. Even if we send people in, we might not be able to find them. Even so, we have to try. We cannot just sit by and watch them trapped inside, Wen Qi insisted. Zhang Yunzhou looked at Wen Qi with a conflicted expression. I will personally bring a team inside the Wailing Well. I will not allow any student from my academy to remain in such a dangerous land while we just sit by and watch, said Wen Qi. The group was taken aback by Wen Qi's decisiveness. The current state of the Wailing Well was completely different from what they expected. Monsters above the Emperor level were not something which even they could handle. Wen Qi was risking his own life to save his students. Vice President, we still cannot confirm what is going on inside Universe City. You need to stay here to hold down the fort. I will lead the team inside. Luo Sheng spoke up. They cannot be sure if the rescue team would be able to find the others safely. If Wen Qi encountered an above Emperor-level monster and died inside the Wailing Well, the Netherworld Academy folks in Universe City would end up leaderless. Wen Qi's display motivated the other academies to make their move. They immediately decided to send their men into the Wailing Well together to find the various teams inside. Meanwhile, the others would try their best to find some clues inside Universe City. I will send word to President Wu immediately. Wen Qi nodded. The various academies started moving. Meanwhile, the people inside the Wailing Well remained oblivious. Yi Qingtang hung the cloth with the message on a tree behind her. She then continued to treat the injuries of Lu Yuanxiang's team. Unable to leave the Wailing Well, she would need to carry out more medical treatment on their injuries. Otherwise, they would not be able to move. Teacher Yi, we are very lucky to have you. Lu Yuanxiang squeezed Yi Qing's arm, his eyes filled with gratitude. I'm just doing what I should do. Yi Qing smiled. But Lu Yuanxiang was aware of the situation. He leaned closer to Yi Qing and said in a low voice, Teacher Yi, I know that my team is gravely injured and will only impede your progress. However, I have no choice but to be selfish and implore you to take care of these kids. If we encounter that monster again, you don't need to bother about me. I just hope that you can try your best to protect those students. Run as far as you can. I will do whatever I can to distract the monster and buy you some time. Who knew if they would encounter that monster again? Lu Yuanxiang had already considered the worst possible scenario. Yi Qingtang remained silent, but she was full of respect for Lu Yuanxiang now. Nevertheless, Yi Qingtang's line of thinking was not as simple as Lu Yuanxiang's. They didn't know if the faulty talisman was an accident or intentional. If it was intentional, it would not just be a matter of avoiding that monster and winning the competition. They would have to find a way to leave this place alive. Despite her thoughts, Yi Qingtang didn't voice out her concerns. She did not wish to further burden Lu Yuanxiang and his team, who were already pushed to their limits. She also didn't want to lay out such a cruel scenario to her own brats. After resting for a night, Lu Yuanxiang's team managed to recover a little after consuming large quantities of Yi Qing's elixirs. They were able to walk now, albeit at a slow speed. Chapter 24:15 Desperate Straits 3. Yi Qingtang did not hurry them, but just went along with the slow pace of Lu Yuanxiang's team. As per Yi Qing's instructions, Mu Ziying spent all night crafting over a dozen wooden birds. Those birds were rather small, only the size of a palm, and did not have any attacking abilities. But their simple design made them perfect for scouting. Yi Qingtang would have Mu Ziying release those birds to scout their surroundings first to ensure that it was safe. Only then would they continue forward. Every step was made with extra caution. Lu Yuanxiang's team was very curious when they saw Mu Ziying controlling those birds to scout the route ahead. At first, they saw faint strands shooting out of Mu Ziying's fingers and joining those wooden birds. As the birds flew farther away, those lines disappeared without a trace. Lu Yuanxiang had met several famous puppet masters before, but had never seen this kind of puppetry. To think that it was being performed by such a young girl. He had never heard of there being a puppet master in the Netherworld Academy. After traveling for half a day, Lu Yuanxiang increasingly discovered that Yi Qing's steadiness and wisdom were far beyond that of someone his young age. There were many aspects of Yi Qing which Lu Yuanxiang couldn't help being pleasantly surprised at. Recalling those early rumors surrounding Yi Qing in the Netherworld Academy, Lu Yuanxiang's opinion of the youth had now completely changed. He was not all strange or arrogant as claimed in those rumors. Instead, he was exceptionally calm and patient. Not only that, he possessed alchemy skills even better than Zhu Ning's, and was able to produce several Divine Lord stage students in just a few months. If this young teacher was very arrogant, and if not for Dean Nua's incident, he would have instantly become highly respected by all the teachers. And now, after interacting with Yi Qing for some time, Lu Yuanxiang couldn't help suspecting the true story behind Dean Nua's departure, and why the matter had been so overblown. After all, Yi Qing didn't look like the aggressive and pushy sort of person. But at this point in time, Lu Yuanxiang didn't have the mental energy to analyze this matter. All he wanted was to get through these last few days smoothly. Perhaps when the competition ended, there would be an exit from the Wailing Well. Boss! Mu Ziying suddenly stopped. What's wrong? Yi Qingtang asked cautiously. Mu Ziying moved her finger. Southeast direction. 800 meters away. Seems like there's something there. What is it? Mu Ziying did not rush to answer. She seemed to be manipulating those wooden birds to take a closer look at the situation. I'm not sure. I crafted these birds too hastily, and I can only have a vague sense, so I cannot see anything. But it should not be a demon. The wooden birds are not transmitting any sense of danger. Yi Qingtang nodded. As long as it was not a demon or monster. She led her team forward to take a look, but they were all stunned when they arrived at the location. In the middle of a dense forest was a huge crater. It looked like it had been created by a giant's foot. Collapsed trees were strewn all around, and there were large patches of blood between them, as well as remnants of pulverized bodies. These corpses were destroyed beyond recognition, and the air was thick with the putrid stench of blood. These are people from Maple Knight Academy. Qin Feng frowned slightly as he looked at a school badge fallen on the ground. What happened to them? Yi Qingtang surveyed the surroundings as if trying to look for something. Finally, she discovered a body beneath a fallen tree. It appeared to be the gruesome bodily remains of a teacher. Chapter 24:16. Desperate Straits. 4. The teacher had been crushed into 2 parts and one arm was covering a dead teenage girl. Although the teenage girl was already dead, it was clear that even at the final moment, this teacher had been trying to protect his student. Yi Qingtang took off the space ring from the teacher's hand and opened it. She glanced inside. Her face instantly darkened. I am afraid that my suspicions are proving true. Teacher Yi, your suspicions? What do you mean? Lu Yuanxiang looked at Yi Qing in confusion. He had no idea what the latter had been suspecting. Lei Yin and the others were also very curious. They were planning to step forward to take a look, but Yi Qing commanded, "Go and take care of the others. See if there are any lucky survivors around." Lei Yin and his group were taken aback. Lucky survivors? Was Teacher Yi joking? Even the trees had been turned to mush. Anyone here would definitely be dead meat. But even though they felt that boss' task for them was a fool's errand, Lei Yin and the others obediently went and did as asked. Yi Qingtang led Lu Yuanxiang to the side and opened the space ring for him to see. When Lu Yuanxiang glanced inside, he saw that there was only a tripod and some demon crystals. For a moment there, he still had no idea what was going on. He looked at Yi Qingtang in confusion. "Teacher Yi, what's wrong?" Yi Qingtang replied in a soft voice. "The Maple Knight Academy's teleportation talisman is gone." Lu Yuanxiang was taken aback. "I already suspected that your teleportation talisman's failure to work might not have been an accident. So when I saw the Maple Knight Academy team, I wanted to confirm my suspicions. The Maple Knight Academy had clearly also encountered some indomitable monster. Otherwise, they wouldn't have died so wretchedly. No teacher would be so stubborn as to refuse to use the teleportation talisman under such circumstances." And the absence of the teleportation talisman in the space ring confirmed Yi Qingtang's conjecture. The Maple Knight Academy people must have used the teleportation talisman at the crucial moment, wanting to escape from this place. But in the end, their talisman also failed to work, just like yours. They were not teleported out and all died here. Lu Yuanxiang was stunned. Before he could react, he saw Yi Qing take out her space ring and the teleportation talisman from inside it. Without any hesitation, she crushed it. "Teacher Yi!" Lu Yuanxiang wanted to stop him, but it was too late. After it was crushed, Yi Qing remained standing there. Lei Yin and the others did not disappear either. All that had happened in front of his eyes completely stunned Lu Yuanxiang. Yi Qingtang was not surprised at the outcome. These teleportation talismans are useless. We have been tricked. By whom? Who would dare to tamper with the teleportation talismans? Do they want to make enemies out of the various academies? Lu Yuanxiang asked. Yi Qingtang shook her head. There were too few clues, and she could not make an accurate conjecture at this point. Something suddenly came to mind, but she remained silent. Things were probably even more complicated than what they could imagine now. Mu Xing suddenly ran over. "Boss, there are some people heading this way." With a slight frown, Yi Qingtang summoned Lei Yin and the others to immediately leave this wretched place. But just as they were about to flee into the dense forest, several figures emerged. Chapter 24:17. Death Wish 1. The figures stood by the crater. They were taken aback when they saw the collapsed trees and dead Maple Knight Academy people. It was a team from the Flying Star Academy. One of them was a teenager who had an exceptionally acute detection ability. This was how they detected the presence of Yi Qing's group and rushed over. But they couldn't help being stunned by the disastrous sight. "Teacher, there are people from the Netherworld Academy." One of the Netherworld Academy students spotted Yi Qing and his team, who were just about to leave. The Flying Star Academy teacher frowned as he surveyed the death scene before him. The Netherworld Academy is so merciless. "Teacher, what should we do now?" They must have just expended a lot of energy. "It is the best time for us to make our move and stop them," the teacher instructed. But their numbers, it doesn't look like they're just one team. If I am not wrong, it looks like two teams combined. We would be at a disadvantage if we attacked them, right? The teenager hesitated. The team competition was approaching the final stage. The teams had all stopped hunting demons and were targeting the other teams. The teacher narrowed his eyes as he examined Yi Qingtang's group. About half of their members are grievously injured and would not be able to fight. Amongst the rest, there are 2 from the medicine faculty. At the most, only 9 of them would be able to participate in the battle. We still have the advantage of numbers. Moreover, the teacher lowered his voice before commanding his students to attack. Initially, Yi Qingtang hadn't wanted to meddle with them, but the Flying Star Academy folks charged forward and blocked their way. If not for Lu Yuanxiang's team, Yi Qingtang and her brats would have already disappeared without a trace. Unfortunately, Lu Yuanxiang's team would be left in the lurch if they fled first. A sense of foreboding arose in Lu Yuanxiang's mind when he saw the people blocking their way. He turned to see the Flying Star Academy teacher standing behind them. The Flying Star Academy teacher said provocatively, "Trying to escape after robbing them? I already heard rumors of the Netherworld Academy, but never expected you guys to be so merciless. Killing so many Maple Knight Academy people just for the sake of taking their demon crystals." Lu Yuanxiang instantly realized that there was a misunderstanding. "My friend, you have misunderstood. We did not kill the Maple Knight Academy people. We only just arrived. Who else if not you guys? We are both competitors, and there's no need to try and hide the truth. But since you dared to rob others, you should be prepared to be robbed." The Flying Star Academy teacher narrowed his eyes. The spirit energy of his students surged. Lu Yuanxiang was also well aware that the true danger in this competition was not only the infighting between the various academies. The Wailing Well test is not as simple as we thought. There are monsters which are above Emperor level hidden in here, and the Maple Knight Academy folks were killed by such a monster. Even our teleportation talisman is defective. At a time like this, we cannot continue fighting amongst ourselves. Lu Yuanxiang was sincere in his persuasion, but Yi Qingtang remained expressionless. She knew that Lu Yuanxiang was just too kind-hearted and naive, but his urgings would be a futile attempt, and Yi Qingtang's predictions were true. The Flying Star Academy teacher remained unmoved after hearing Lu Yuanxiang's persuasion. Instead, a smirk crossed his lips. Chapter 24:18 Death Wish 2. Lu Yuanxiang's kind intentions sounded like a ridiculous joke to the ears of those from the Flying Star Academy. Not only did it fail to stop them, but it also made them feel that these 2 Netherworld Academy teams must have been so heavily injured from the earlier battle that they were just trying to trick them into not fighting. Lu Yuanxiang wanted to tell everyone the truth and avoid an unnecessary bloodbath, but the Flying Star Academy teacher's expression suddenly changed. In the blink of an eye, the Flying Star Academy folks charged toward Lu Yuanxiang and his team. Their first targets were Lu Yuanxiang's team, who were all grievously injured and unable to defend themselves. "Be careful." Yi Qingtang dragged Lu Yuanxiang behind her before reaching out an open palm to meet the Flying Star Academy teacher's fist. A massive shockwave was emitted when his fist made contact. "Protect the others." Yi Qingtang instructed Lei Yin and the rest before flying toward the Flying Star Academy teacher in attack. Yi Qingtang had already seen through the Flying Star Academy strategy. They planned to attack the vulnerable Lu Yuanxiang's team first, so that they could hold them as hostages to force Yi Qingtang's team to hand over their demon crystals. As highly respected as an academy might be, they would still end up resorting to all sorts of nefarious means to win. Having already predicted this, Yi Qingtang was not at all surprised. The moment the command was given, Lei Yin and his group immediately drew their weapons and met their opponents. Yin Shun and Song Yinhan stood in front of Lu Yuanxiang's team to protect them, carefully observing their surroundings. Song Yinhan's hands were a little pale. As a medicine faculty student, he had never been in a real battle like this. He subconsciously glanced at Yin Shun and saw that there were no traces of fear on the other boy's face. Instead, he looked combat-ready, arms wide open to protect Lu Yuanxiang's team. Yinchun, are you not scared? Song Yinhan swallowed hard. Yinchun was slightly taken aback before smiling. What is there to be scared of? Song Yinhan didn't know how to reply. He had been under Zhu Ning all this while and enjoyed a high status in the school. As a result, he was used to a pampered existence and possessed an arrogant but more naive view of life. He thought that this competition would purely be about the number of demons killed. But now, the danger was far beyond what he had imagined. Another team was actually attacking them. The Flying Star Academy people were not at all surprised or angry, even though they thought the Netherworld Academy folks had killed the Maple Knight Academy team. It was as though this was supposed to happen in this competition. Apart from a medicine faculty student, the other 10 members of the Flying Star Academy threw themselves into the battle. Meanwhile, there were only 9 people on Yi Qingtang's side. Very soon, the extra person snuck his way to Yun Shen's proximity. 2 medicine faculty students and a group of injured folks. I suggest that you obediently surrender, otherwise, you'll be the ones to suffer. The Flying Star Academy teenager surveyed his easy targets as he raised his sword in a threatening manner. The Flying Star Academy teacher had planned this. The others would distract the 9 fighters while he took the opportunity to hold the rest hostage. All the medicine faculty students had a special emblem on their uniforms. As a result, they knew that Yun Shun and Song Yanhan were from the medicine faculty. Chapter 24:19, Death Wish 3. Be careful. This person is at the Divine Lord stage. Lu Yuanxiang saw that the situation was not looking good. He wanted to take action, but the slightest movement tore open his wound. Blood gushed out, and he was unable to step any further. Song Yinhan broke out in a cold sweat, and his hands couldn't stop trembling. Still want to struggle? Don't blame me then. The Flying Star Academy smirked before charging toward them, slashing down toward Song Yinhan. Song Yinhan had practiced alchemy from a young age, and the level of his martial art was very low. Suppressed by the power of a Divine Lord-level practitioner, he was unable to move an inch. Seeing the sword hovering above his head, Song Yinhan instinctively shut his eyes. But the expected wave of pain did not materialize. He opened his eyes again. Another sword had blocked that attacking sword. Song Yinhan turned in shock to see that it was Yun Shun who had blocked that attack. And Yun Shun was exuding the aura of a Divine Lord-level practitioner. Song Yinhan was stunned. Even Lu Yuanxiang's team was also shocked. Yun Shun was a Divine Lord-level practitioner? What kind of joke was this? Wasn't he from the medicine faculty? At this moment, Yin Shun had no time to explain himself. Stepping forward, he forced back their attacker. The Flying Star Academy teenager never expected this medicine faculty student to be at the Divine Lord stage. Startled, he was forced back several meters. But he soon snapped out of his trance and pressed forward. Even though he was a Divine Lord stage, a medicine faculty student could never be better at martial arts than him. But Yin Shen soon disproved his theory. Lu Yuanxiang and the others have been very worried, but after witnessing Yin Shen's fluid moves, they finally relaxed a little. The opponent never expected a medicine faculty student to be so good at fighting. Every single move was lightning quick and precise, completely on par with a martial arts practitioner of the same level. On top of that, his attacks were more ruthless and relentless. The Flying Academy teenager couldn't help feeling shaken from the decisiveness of the attacks. Yinshin was holding himself well. Meanwhile, the other battle was also progressing with white-hot intensity. Lei Yin and the others have been all hyped up for battle since entering the Wailing Well, but they hadn't gotten a single opportunity to fight. Yi Qing took care of everything, and they hadn't been able to do anything. This was a good chance for them to vent their pin-up energy on this team from the Flying Star Academy. Originally, they hadn't planned to fight these folks, but who could blame them since they came knocking on their doors? What else was there left to say? Thrash them. The Flying Star Academy teenagers were soon beaten down, especially the 2 who were fighting Ran Mo and Qin Feng. They were nearly crying out for mercy. In reality, the Flying Star Academy team dared to attack Yi Qingtang's team because of the Netherworld Academy's dismal performance in the earlier martial arts competition. They also noted that Yi Qingtang was very young and did not look qualified to be a teacher. A team led by such a young teacher could not possibly be an elite group. That was why they decided to attack. Who would have thought that they had kicked a wasp's nest? The Flying Star Academy teacher realized something was off as he fought Yi Qingtang. This frail-looking youth in his 20s was actually a Divine Lord 5th Heaven-level practitioner. Chapter 2420. Who said, I was a good person? 1. Within a few rounds, Yi Qingtang thrashed the Divine Lord 4th Heaven-level teacher so badly that he could barely lift his head. He was drenched in a cold sweat, but Yi Qing still looked fresh, as if he had hardly used much strength. As the youth executed another round of attacks, his speed was so fast that his opponent had no time to react at all. In the next second, the teacher felt like his head had been smashed by a huge rock. Seeing stars, he dropped from midair and collapsed to the ground with a loud crash. Soon after their teacher fell, the Flying Star Academy students were defeated one by one. Lei Yin and the others tossed the defeated students before Yi Qing's feet. Grinning, Yin Shun had also dragged his swollen-faced Flying Academy opponent over. The other Flying Academy students had been feeling rather despondent. Now, the sight of Yin Shun in his medicine faculty uniform, dragging their teammate over, shocked them. What was going on? A medicine faculty student able to thrash their Divine Lord-level martial arts teammate. Lu Yuanxiang also led his team over. He heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that the entire Flying Star Academy team had been defeated. The Flying Star Academy teacher thought that he had come upon a good opportunity. Instead, his face was now swollen beyond recognition, fresh blood still flowing from the gashes on his face. He never imagined that he would be so utterly defeated. Teacher Yi. Lu Yuanxiang looked seriously at Yi Qing. The other Netherworld Academy teachers had disagreed with Yi Qing's decision to not let his team participate in the martial arts competition. But now, it looked like Yi Qing's decision was the right one. Only a few days after the individual martial arts competition, the Academy teams entered the Wailing Well to endlessly hunt and slaughter demons. It was an exhausting period. As a result, even though Yun Shin's opponent was also a Divine Lord-level practitioner, he was too exhausted to be able to fight properly. Yi Qing looked at the Flying Star Academy teacher, collapsed on the ground. Without another word, she took out his space ring. The teacher already expected that they would lose their demon crystals after being defeated. But he saw that Yi Qing didn't retrieve their demon crystals. Instead, he took out their teleportation talisman. Shock filled his eyes. Stop! What are you trying to do? The Flying Star Academy teacher was panicking. There was still a period of time before the end of the competition. Although they had lost their current hoard of demon crystals, they still had a chance to get more. But if Yi Qing crushed their teleportation talisman, they would be transported out of the Wailing Well. They would lose all hope then. Have mercy. Don't be so ruthless. Yi Qingtang ignored his cries. As the Flying Star Academy teacher railed at her, she crushed their teleportation talisman. The Flying Star Academy team fell into despair as they looked at the flash of light emitted by the talisman. But they soon discovered that the teleportation talisman did not seem to work. They were not transported out. At this moment, Lu Yuanxiang's earlier words suddenly echoed in the Flying Star Academy teacher's mind. The Wailing Well had monsters above the Emperor level, and their teleportation talismans were all defective. Could he be telling the truth? You guys really didn't kill those from the Maple Knight Academy? The Flying Star Academy teacher seemed to be hoping that Yi Qing's team had killed those people. After all, that scenario was far better than Lu Yuanxiang's claims being real. If we had killed them, you would have already met the same fate. Would we still waste time talking to you? Nangong Lai sneered. The Flying Star Academy teacher's face turned pale. There was no way he could fail to know what this all meant. Chapter 2421. Who said, I was a good person, too. Even if he didn't wish to believe it, the teleportation talisman had been crushed right before his eyes. Yet they were still inside the Wailing Well. This proved everything. Teacher Yi, I think that we should let them go now. Lu Yuanxiang questioned tentatively. Yi Qingtang nodded. The Wailing Well situation was extremely urgent and dangerous. This was not the time to fight with each other. And Yi Qingtang was not that petty. Let alone the group was already so badly beaten up. They had been taught a good lesson. The Flying Star Academy team was released, but their faces remained ashen. The teenagers looked at their own teacher with a deep sense of unease. Now that they didn't have a teleportation talisman, how would they leave this dangerous place if there were really above-emperor-level monsters? I am sorry. I never imagined that this could be true. The Flying Star Academy teacher looked at Lu Yuanxiang and Yi Qingtang. They had kindly tried to inform him, but all he could think about was snatching their demon crystals. Lu Yuanxiang shook his head. With so many things weighing upon his mind now, he was in no mood to kick up a fuss with these people. The Flying Star Academy teacher looked distressed. He wanted to say something else, but suddenly noticed. Yi Qing was pouring the demon crystals from his space ring into his own. The Flying Star Academy teacher, hold on. What was going on? Teacher, didn't you say that you guys didn't? Yi Qingtang glanced at him. I didn't take the Maple Knight Academy team's crystals, but that doesn't mean I won't take yours. Since they had delivered themselves to her doorstep, there was nothing wrong in taking their crystals. The Flying Star Academy teacher's eyes widened. The humble gratitude in his eyes instantly morphed into more complicated feelings. What was wrong with this person? Didn't they say there were above-emperor-level monsters? At a time like this, shouldn't they be worrying about their own safety? But they were taking advantage of the situation. Even so, the Flying Star Academy teacher didn't know how to voice out his objections. After all, they were indeed the ones who had attacked Yi Qing's team, intending to rob them of their demon crystals. Now that they were defeated, it was only logical for him to take their crystals. But why did it still feel so strange? Likewise, Lu Yuanxiang also felt rather befuddled when he saw Yi Qing take their demon crystals. Hadn't Yi Qing said he had no need for them when he volunteered their crystals earlier? After collecting all the demon crystals, Yi Qingtang tossed the space ring back to the teacher. The Flying Star Academy teacher looked at his space ring, which now only contained a tripod. He looked distressed and felt very conflicted. Let's go, Yi Qingtang said. Lu Yuanxiang and the rest followed Yi Qingtang. The Flying Star Academy teacher looked at Yi Qing's departing profile. He opened his mouth several times but didn't know what to say. To be honest, Yi Qing's team was indeed stronger than them, and they had discovered the Wailing Well anomaly before them. Also, they were able to survive even after knowing about the above-emperor-level monsters. Perhaps they had some special abilities? Teacher, what should we do? The Flying Star Academy teacher student looked ill at ease. Wouldn't they all be dead meat if they really encountered an above-emperor-level monster? Let's follow them. The Flying Star Academy teacher gritted his teeth. The young teacher was clearly the leader of the Netherworld Academy group, and he was more familiar with the Wailing Well situation. Now, it was the best choice for them to follow the Netherworld Academy. At the very least, they would be a little safer. Are we not going to look for the other teams? One of the teenagers asked. The teacher shook his head. When have we met any other teams other than today? The Wailing Well is too large. I cannot risk your lives. Chapter 24-22. Who said I was a good person? 3. The teenagers nodded. Although still feeling rather conflicted, they chose to follow Yi Qing's team, keeping a suitable distance between them. Boss, those guys are following us. Mu Ziying's wooden birds could sense the Flying Star Academy team's presence. Let them be, Yi Qing replied in a mild tone. Lu Yuanxiang glanced at Yi Qing, and he couldn't resist a small smile. Wasn't agreeing to let those people tag along then. Teacher Yi, you are a good person, Lu Yuanxiang commented. Yi Qingtang, who said she was a good person? Boss, is it really good to let them follow us? They came at us with such ill intentions from the start, Lei Yin muttered. The Flying Star Academy team failed to defeat them. If they had managed to win the battle, would they have been so kind? Are you prepared to fight again if you meet another team like them? Yi Qingtang asked. Lei Yin was taken aback. The various teams would try to attack each other now. But this competition is not as simple as we think. There is no need for us to waste our energy to handle the other teams. This Flying Star Academy team already knows the truth, so if we meet with another team from their academy, they would believe them more readily, Yi Qingtang explained. She allowed the Flying Star folks to follow them not because she was kind-hearted. Under the current circumstances, it was just the most appropriate decision. The Wailing Well was too expansive, and Yi Qingtang didn't know how to leave this place. If they could gather more teams, they would be able to collect more information about the Wailing Well and would only support their attempts to leave. Outside the Wailing Well, the Academy leaders were focused on the scene before them. When the Flying Star Academy vice president saw his team attack Yi Qing's group, his heart had risen to his throat. He was desperate to tell his people about the dangers inside the Wailing Well and to stop fighting each other. In the end, before long, he saw his own team being thrashed by Yi Qing's group. Thereafter, they were even secretly following behind Yi Qing's team like obedient chicks behind the mother hen. The Flying Star Academy vice president shot Wen Qi an awkward glance. Truly embarrassing. If not for the current dire circumstances, he really wished to pretend that the team didn't belong to his academy. Wen Qi was oblivious to the Flying Star Academy vice president. He was no longer that worried for Yi Qing's group. After all, this kid was steady and capable. Wen Qi felt very lucky to have made this correct choice. The first batch of our men have just entered the Wailing Well. I hope that they can find the teams as soon as possible, someone announced. Actually, I am now more worried about something else. Wen Qi frowned slightly. What? The others looked at him. The team competition is 10 days long. Is this a fake deadline, or will something even more terrible happen on that date? Wen Qi's face turned increasingly grave. The other academy folks realized this point now, but they had too few clues at this moment. Universe City was like an empty shell. There was nothing useful remaining. And during this period, another few teams had been attacked by above-Emperor-level monsters. Just like the Maple Knight Academy team, they had all perished in a matter of seconds. And the monsters were all of different species. The number of above-Emperor-level monsters inside the Wailing Well had been increasing continuously. The number of deaths was also climbing exponentially. Chapter 24-23 Symbols 1. Yi Qingtang's group continued forward. Luckily, they only met a few demons on the way and didn't encounter any above-Emperor-level monsters. With the protection of Yi Qingtang's team, Lu Yuanxiang's team also remained safe. Teacher Yi, we have been a burden to you. Lu Yuanxiang was full of gratitude to Yi Qing. Yi Qingtang merely waved off his words. These demons are not a problem. The key now is how to leave the Wailing Well. Yi Qingtang fell in a deep thought. There was just another day to go before the 10-day deadline. But with the defective teleportation talismans, what should have been a limited number of days now felt like an endless period. How were they to leave the Wailing Well without a teleportation talisman? The vice president and the others should have already seen what had happened. I believe they will have a plan soon, Lu Yuanxiang said. But Yi Qingtang was not that optimistic. The teleportation talismans had all failed, and the Wailing Well was an unfamiliar location. All around them were unknown dangers. If anything, Yi Qingtang had a premonition that the 10-day deadline might not be the end to this team competition, but the start of a new danger. And this prediction of hers happened to be the same as Wen Qi's earlier conjecture. What is that? Qin Feng suddenly saw a destroyed patch amongst the dense forest in front of them. It looked like the scene from the Maple Knight Academy incident. A large area was flattened, as if the ground had been turned upside down. Collapsed trees had fallen upon large mounds of dirt and rocks. Yi Qingtang immediately turned to look at Mu Ziying. The young girl shook her head, indicating that she did not sense any living creature in front. Only then did Yi Qingtang lead her group forward. A large hole had been split open under the wreckage. Yi Qingtang stood at the side, peering into the darkness. Immerse sent a puppet in to take a look, Yi Qingtang said. Mu Ziying sent a few wooden birds in. Following behind them, the Flying Star Academy team saw that Yi Qing's group had suddenly stopped. They also came to a halt some distance away. Teacher, what are they doing? One of the students looked at the Flying Star Academy teacher in puzzlement. The teacher shook his head. They did not dare to step too close and couldn't hear what Yi Qing's group was saying, but along the way, he had witnessed how capable Yi Qing was in assigning the limited number of students in his team to handle the demons, all the while protecting the heavily injured Lu Yuanxiang and the others. He had earned his respect at that. This Netherworld Academy teacher is still young, but is so steady and capable. His powers are also above mine. How strange. Why haven't I heard of this person before? The teacher felt increasingly puzzled. With Yi Qing's young age, no one would doubt him even if he claimed to be a student. As young as he was, the way he handled crises was not at all inferior to an experienced teacher. Even the Flying Star Academy teacher himself had to admit that if he had been in the youth's shoes, he might not have handled things as well as him. Wu Fengling, where did you get such a treasure? The Flying Star Academy teacher's eyes widened when he saw Mu Ziying release several wooden birds into the hole. A puppet master. Chapter 24-24. Symbols 2. The Flying Star Academy was on a different mainland from the Netherworld Academy, and it was where the Puppet Emperor resided. And so it was no surprise that the Flying Star Academy was familiar with puppet masters. The Netherworld Academy has a puppet master? The Flying Star Academy teacher was astonished. It should be pointed out that puppet masters were quite rare. Most wouldn't enter normal academies or sects, as they had their own guilds, and most puppet masters would join one of those mysterious groups. Only a small number of puppet masters would be lured to join a major faction where they would hold a very high status. Puppet masters were very unique and extremely rare to the various factions. He never expected there to be a hidden puppet master inside Yi Qing's team. And the puppet master also looked very young. Just as the Flying Star Academy team was pondering over this, Mu Ziying already scanned the situation inside the hole. There were no living creatures inside. You guys remain up here. I will go in to take a look first. Yi Qingtang instructed. Lu Yuanxiang felt worried. Teacher Yi, the scene here looks very similar to when we encountered that monster. If I'm not wrong, another monster must have burrowed out of this hole here. I am afraid it is not safe down there. Yi Qingtang shook her head. Inger already surveyed the hole, and there are no living creatures down there. Those monsters are far too powerful for any one of the teams to handle, and we don't have any teleportation talismans, so it won't be that easy to escape. We know nothing about the Wailing Well. What we lack the most now are clues. The timing of the appearance of these monsters was very strange. Based on what Yi Qingtang knew, these monsters had only emerged over the past couple of days. Not only that, quite a number had appeared over this period as well. Yi Qingtang had to take a look to see what the hell was going on. Said like that, Yi Qing's words sounded very logical, and so Lu Yuanxiang didn't raise any more objections. Soon after, Yi Qingtang jumped into the hole. Landing on the ground, it was pitch black everywhere. She lit a black flame, which provided some light. The underground cave was bigger than what Yi Qingtang imagined. She discovered some palm-sized scales on the dirt floor. Those scales had a rough surface and were nearly half a finger-length thick. It looked like the monster had inadvertently shed those scales when it broke through the earth. Lu Yuanxiang and the others had encountered a monster. They didn't manage to see the entire monster, but they hadn't spotted any scales on what they saw. It was clear that this was a different monster. Meanwhile, the monster encountered by the Maple Knight Academy team was another different one. Currently, it looked like there were at least 3 different types of above Emperor level monsters. This did not bode well for them. Yi Qingtang frowned slightly and continued to survey the area. Suddenly, she realized that the hardness of the ground beneath her feet was not quite right. It was not the softness of dirt, but felt quite hard and solid. Shifting her flame downward, the ground lit up in front of her. She was stunned by what she saw. Beneath her feet were an array of strange symbols, stretching from where she stood and expanding to the entire cave. Due to the large area, Yi Qingtang could not see the entire pattern. She leaped into the air and unleashed a stream of black flames. The flames illuminated the entire underground cave. and those strange symbols instantly appeared before everyone's eyes. Chapter 24-25, Symbols 3. These symbols, why do they look so familiar? Standing by the edge of the hole, Jingze stared at the symbols. Where had he seen them before? He seemed to recall seeing the same symbols somewhere else. I also find them rather familiar, but I just can't remember at the moment. Yinshin had the same feeling. I have definitely seen these symbols before. But where? Lei Yin scratched his head. Surprisingly, even Lei Yin felt like he had seen them before. The same feeling arose in Qin Feng, Mu Xing, and Nangong Lai, but Lu Yuanxiang and his team were left confused. They did not recognize those symbols at all. Teacher Lu, have you seen them before? Yin Shun asked Lu Yuanxiang. Lu Yuanxiang replied in the negative. He was feeling very puzzled. I remember. Mu Xing's eyes lit up as if she recalled something. Where? Lei Yin asked. Mu Xing replied. In the Evil Soul Forest, in that. Mu Xing suddenly recalled that while they were in the Evil Soul Forest, they had seen these symbols inside Night Soul Beast's hibernation cave inside the Fiend Celestial Tomb. Realization immediately dawned upon Qin Feng and the others at Mu Xing's words. Meanwhile, Lu Yuanxiang was startled by the mention of the Evil Soul Forest. The Evil Soul Forest? You guys went to the Evil Soul Forest? Gong Jinyun also looked at Mu Xing in shock. Even their teammates, Ran Mo, and the rest were also shocked. It should be pointed out that the Evil Soul Forest was notorious for being an extremely dangerous place with night soul beasts and countless monsters within. They had only heard of that place, but had never ventured there. But looking at the reactions of Mu Xing and her group, it looked like they had gone there before. Mu Xing looked at the faces of the others. Luckily, she hadn't mentioned the Fiend Celestial Tomb. After all, they had not told anyone about Yi Qing bringing them to the Evil Soul Forest for training. At this moment, Yi Qingtang flew out from the hole. Her face was very grave. She had also realized the same thing as Mu Xing and the others. A strong sense of foreboding arose in her heart when she realized the symbols in the hole were the same as the ones in the Fiend Celestial Tomb. Teacher Yi, how is it? Lu Yuanxiang asked. Yi Qingtang didn't answer immediately. Why were there such symbols inside the cave where the monster came from? Was there some linkage between the Fiend Celestial Tomb and this wailing well? For the moment, Yi Qingtang could not confirm anything. She had no idea if the appearance of these symbols was coincidental or did it mean something else. Teacher Lu, where's the place where you encountered your monster? Can you lead us there to take a look? Yi Qingtang asked. To confirm that the symbols were not just a coincidence, she had to take a look at another place where a monster emerged. Lu Yuanxiang was taken aback. He never expected Yi Qing to ask to take a look at where they encounter the monster. He was hesitant, but having observed Yi Qing during this period of time, Lu Yuanxiang knew that Yi Qing was wise beyond his years. All right, I will take you there, but I cannot guarantee that the monster is not nearby. Yi Qingtang nodded. With Mu Xing around, they would be able to avoid stumbling upon a monster unawares. Lu Yuanxiang led the way as the group headed toward where the first monster appeared. Meanwhile, the Flying Star Academy team had no idea what was going on. All they could do was follow the group ahead instinctively. Chapter 24-26, Symbols 4. Before long, Lu Yuanxiang led the group to where his team encountered the monster. It was a wreck with the smell of blood mixed with a strange odor. The monster was no longer around. When the group arrived, it was eerily quiet. Deep pain and sorrow surfaced on the faces of Lu Yuanxiang's team when they saw the wreckage. It was here that they lost a teammate and the rest of them had nearly died. Meanwhile, Yi Qingtang searched through the debris and found the hole where the monster emerged from. Her face grew even grimmer when she saw the situation underground. There were the same symbols carved in the ground beneath. Yi Qingtang's suspicions had been confirmed. The appearance of these monsters and these symbols were probably linked and in a nefarious way. But what exactly did these symbols represent? Why had the same symbols appeared in the Fiend Celestial Tomb and the Wailing Well? Wen Qi, your teacher, is rather capable. Outside the Wailing Well, the academy leaders were gathered in the hall and watching the movements of the teams through the screens. During this period of time, they observed that the number of monsters had already far surpassed Yi Qing's estimations. They were unable to communicate with anyone inside. Meanwhile, Luo, Sheng, and the others, who had just entered the Wailing Well, had yet to meet with any team. As a result, those on the outside could not do anything but watch the events unfold. And Yi Qing's group had brought an unexpected piece of information to everyone. Most of the teams had perished after encountering the above Emperor level monsters. Even though a lucky few had managed to escape, none of them dared to return to investigate the matter. In the end, it was Yi Qing who examined the two places where the monsters emerged and discovered the same strange-looking symbols. How courageous must one be to make such a move? When she also noted the appearance of the symbols in those two places. Does anyone know what those symbols are? When she asked, the crowd shook their heads. These symbols look very unfamiliar. We need to investigate further. The crowd believed that the appearance of those monsters was invariably linked to those symbols. But they had no idea what those symbols were. They sent men to research those symbols. When she, this Netherworld Academy teacher, is young and capable. It looks like he knows something about those symbols. The Heaven Dome Academy vice president spoke up. It's a pity that we are unable to communicate with them. Otherwise, we might be able to get more clues. When Chi sighed, the Heaven Dome Academy vice president was feeling rather helpless. Never mind, going by his reaction, he must have some idea. Perhaps he can find more clues. The crowd nodded. Yi Qingtang appeared to be the most clear-headed person amongst all the teams. Everyone at present was no fool. They could see that Yi Qing was looking for ways to leave the Wailing Well. This point alone was already far beyond the progress of the teams from their own academies. Yi Qingtang could vaguely feel that there was something wrong with this team competition. Before she had time to ponder over the newly gathered clues, Mu Xing's face shifted from a warning by one of the wooden birds. Boss, bad news. Something is heading our way. And it is very powerful. Mu Xing could clearly feel her wooden bird being completely destroyed even before the thing came close. Whatever it was definitely not one of the other teams. Chapter 24-27 Death 1. Just as Mu Xing finished her warning, shocked cries could be heard from the Flying Star Academy team, following behind them. In an instant, the Flying Star Academy team fled toward them like a bunch of lunatics. Monster! Monster! One of the Flying Star Academy teenagers was clearly terrified. His face was pale as he sprinted forward. Yi Qingtang and the others turned to see a massive black shadow rapidly approaching them. Before they could get a good look, Lu Yuanxiang's face paled as if he detected something. Yes, our monster looks something like that. Teacher Yi, we have to escape now. Lu Yuanxiang was unable to see the monster clearly, but that oppressive aura was very familiar. That black figure gave him a feeling that was very similar to the monster that first attacked them, yet somewhat different. It was yet another above Emperor level monster coming toward them. No one expected the sudden appearance of this monster. Without any hesitation, Yi Qingtang led her group to escape. Even she would not be able to handle an above Emperor level monster. Lu Yuanxiang's team was seriously injured and could not move fast. Lei Yin and the others each carried one of them and fled together with the Flying Star Academy folks. But even though they tried their best, the distance between the black figure and them narrowed continuously. The ground beneath their feet vibrated constantly as a fierce wind blasted their ears. They felt like their eardrums were going to burst. Did you have a clear look at that thing? Yi Qingtang asked when she caught up with the Flying Star Academy teacher. The teacher looked extremely grim as he instinctively nodded, but then he shook his head. No, I didn't have a good look. That thing was too big. We couldn't see its full body. I just remember it was all black, and it looked like it was covered by multiple worms. The Flying Star Academy teacher shuddered at the memory. The thing looked like it was created by countless long, black worms entangled together. Those black worms were still wriggling, and just the sight of it made one feel like throwing up. Yi Qingtang furrowed her brows slightly. Going by what he described, it was a different monster from the one Lu Yuanxiang's team encountered. Yi Qingtang tried to make use of the dense forest to shake off the monster, but the monster was too large, and its height far surpassed the tops of the trees in the Wailing Well. From its high vantage point, it could see the direction they were fleeing. Even more startling to Yi Qingtang was the fact that that monster kept pursuing them without any intention of leaving. Why? Yi Qingtang found this very strange. Lu Yuanxiang's team suffered grievous injuries because they happened to be at the spot where the monster burrowed out of the ground. Although the monster attacked them then, it did not pursue them after they fled. But this monster behind them seemed to treat them as prey, chasing them relentlessly. Furthermore, Yi Qingtang realized that the Flying Star Academy team was the first to encounter this monster. Although they didn't get a full look at it, the teachers still managed to see the worms on its body. It could be deduced how close they must have been. Chapter 24-28, Death 2. The monster was above Emperor level, and with that close distance, the Flying Star Academy folks should not have been able to flee. But the monster didn't kill them then. Why? Yi Qingtang just felt that something was not quite right, and she glanced at those behind. Lei Yin and the others were carrying Lu Yuanxiang and his team. Even with the extra baggage, they were not slowed down as they held divine lord-level abilities. But the distance between them and the monster was not wide enough. It would soon catch up with them. Once that happened, the monsters above Emperor-level power was not something they could hold themselves against. Split up. Yi Qingtang suddenly ordered. Lei Yin and his group were stunned. Split up? Yi Qingtang felt that this monster had already latched onto them as targets. Unable to defend themselves, they could only try their best to ensure as many survivors as possible. The teenagers were completely frenzied now. Unable to think clearly for themselves, they instinctively followed Yi Qing's orders. This was like all past incidents. Their boss would never issue a wrong command. The group immediately split up, and the monster behind them chose its target. Yi Qingtang saw the distance between the monster and her narrowing. A bitter smile tugged at the corners of her lips. It looked like her conjecture was right. This monster was targeting a certain person in the group, and she was the lucky chosen one. Yi Qingtang had no idea why this monster would choose to pursue her, but she heaved a sigh of relief. At least her brats would be safe. Yi Qingtang soon detected a powerful force coming at her from behind. A massive black shadow completely engulfed her, and a gigantic monster appeared behind Yi Qingtang. As the Flying Star Academy teacher said, that monster was beyond descriptive words. It was made up of countless black worms entangled together and wriggling endlessly. It looked like a mass of worms stuck together. I am so lucky. Yi Qingtang looked at the monster behind her. She could already feel the powerful aura exuded by it. It was far beyond her own level. An above-Emperor-level existence was able to crush her within seconds. Since Yi Qingtang had been reborn, she had imagined all the different ways she might die. But she never imagined dying with this false identity, and in such a strange place. She had never seen such a monster before and didn't know how to handle it. As stipulated by the rules, she had left all her special artifacts outside the Wailing Well. She didn't even have her mirror of illusions with her. Now, it seemed like certain death was near. The massive monster expanded nonstop as if it wanted to swallow the entire area. Suddenly, a blood-colored hole opened in the monster, and black fangs lined the blood-red hole. It was the monster's mouth. A black shadow shot out of its jaws. The black shadow was very powerful. All vegetation it made contact with instantly turned to ashes. It was too fast. Yi Qingtang was able to see the black shadow rushing toward her, but her body had no time to react. She was doomed. Chapter 24-29, Death 3. Yi Qingtang's heart sank. But just as the black shadow approached Yi Qingtang, a chilly feeling suddenly arose from her wrist area. Multiple streams of black mist surged out from her wrist. Within seconds, the black mist clashed with the black shadow from the monster. As the mist swirled around, Yi Qingtang could smell a thick, evil stench, as well as the faint wails of malicious ghosts. In the next second, The black shadow looked like it had been destroyed by the black mist. It disappeared without a trace. The black mist also gradually dissipated. Yi Qingtang could vaguely see a blurred figure inside the black mist. Before it completely dissipated, it bowed at her before vanishing. Crack! A cracking sound rang out from Yi Qingtang's wrist. It was like something had broken. Yi Qingtang looked down and saw her Nine Souls ring falling to the ground in pieces. Nine Souls ring. This was something that Yi Qingtang had inadvertently placed on her wrist while in the Temple of Shadows. The Nine Souls ring became invisible after being worn, and Yi Qingtang had forgotten about its existence. This was a precious artifact left behind by the Holy Lord of Shadows. Yi Qingtang never expected the long-forgotten Nine Souls ring to save her life at such a crucial moment, able to withstand the attack of an above-Emperor-level monster. It could be inferred just how powerful the Nine Souls ring was. Even so, the Nine Souls ring was now broken, and Yi Qingtang had lost this life-preserving trump card. Taking advantage of the impasse, Yi Qingtang poured all her energy and focus into her legs, just wishing to escape from this massive monster. But an above-Emperor-level power was not something which Yi Qingtang could run from. Within seconds, the monster appeared in front of Yi Qingtang. Countless black shadows shot out of its open maw toward Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang's eyes reflected the countless black shadows, all looking like they wanted to completely tear her apart. Shock was the only thing she could feel. It was as if she could feel the approach of imminent death, and her blood seemed to freeze. Boom! A loud boom rang out as the countless black shadows landed. All the vegetation in the area where Yi Qingtang stood was disintegrated. A massive black hole appeared. Several figures standing not far off stiffened. Boss! Lei Yin and his group had split up per Yi Qing's instructions. But halfway, they realized that the monster was not pursuing them anymore. Instead, it headed in Yi Qing's direction. Almost simultaneously, they realized something was not right and hurried over. But the moment they came near, they saw Yi Qing engulfed by the countless black shadows. And after the black shadows dissipated, the entire area was in ruins. Only a charred black hole remained. After seeing the black hole, the monster appeared to have no intention of staying. It continued traveling forward. It was like its only target had been Yi Qing. It had no interest in the others at all. As they watched the monster's departing back profile, Lei Yin and the others looked like they had lost their souls. They stood there in a daze, unable to move at all. Chapter 2430, Death for Bo. Boss, Mu Ziying collapsed to the ground, tears streaming down her face. Impossible. Boss cannot possibly die. Lei Yin shook his head in disbelief. No matter what, he could not accept what he had just witnessed. Their boss was omnipotent. How could he possibly be dead? Qin Feng clenched his fists as blood dripped down from his palms. I don't believe it. Nangong Lai snapped out his pain. He charged toward the huge black hole. In the next second, Yin Chun, Qin Feng, Lei Yin, Mu Ziying, and Jing Zhe also flew over. Like crazed people, they searched the black hole for traces of Yi Qing. It was as if they wouldn't admit that Yi Qing had died. Lu Yuanxiang stood by the side, watching the scene with a pained expression. Only someone who had personally encountered an above-Emperor-level monster would understand just how terrifying its power was. Yi Qing was very strong and could be considered an above-average practitioner among his peers. But an above-Emperor-level monster. How could one defend against that? In fact, Lu Yuanxiang found himself tearing up. He had realized too late that Yi Qing was a very promising youth. But now this kind of talent had died in a team competition that had spiraled out of control. Song Yinhan gaped. Looking at the crazed actions of Lei Yin and his group, his own eyes turned red. Without a word, he also went forward. As little hope as there was, he kept his thoughts to himself and helped Lei Yan's group search for traces of Yi Qing. It would be good even if all they could find was a corpse. It would offer some closure. Outside the Wailing Well, when Qi collapsed in his chair when he saw Yi Qing engulfed by the black shadows. His face was pale, and he looked as if he had aged 10 years in a second. Yi Qing had died? How could this be? The other academy leaders also couldn't help sighing. From what they saw earlier, this young Netherworld Academy teacher was the most clear-headed person inside, and he seemed to have discovered some clues. If he had more time, he might have been able to get closer to the truth. A pity. The crowd could see that Yi Qing was the backbone of the two Netherworld Academy teams. It was because of him that these two teams managed to escape countless dangers. With Yi Qing's death, his team was like a flock of sheep without their shepherd, completely immersed in intense sorrow. Meanwhile, Lu Yuanxiang was grievously injured and unable to hold the fort. Trapped in such a dangerous environment, the chances of survival for these two teams had become increasingly small. Vice President, a Netherworld Academy teacher, standing beside when Shi tried to comfort him when he saw his pain. When Shi felt like his chest had been ripped apart, he had allowed Yi Qing to join the Netherworld Academy, and he had eagerly looked forward to the Yu's future progress. But now, this promising youth had died, just like that. Is there any news from President Wu? When Shi gritted his teeth before asking. Yi Qingtang had already been prepared to receive death, but she didn't feel the expected pain. The darkness before her eyes suddenly swirled, and in the next second, a ray of light floated in front of her. When Yi Qingtang opened her eyes, she was stunned by what she saw. Chapter 2431. Eavesdropping. 1. Somehow, the scene before her was not the Wailing Well but a blue-green valley. An indescribable smell permeated the air. Yi Qingtang felt that this smell was somewhat familiar. She could clearly remember being attacked by that above-emperor-level monster. Why had she suddenly appeared in this valley? Just as Yi Qingtang was feeling befuddled, sounds of fighting drifted over. Yi Qingtang instinctively hid behind a large tree, and several figures suddenly flashed before her eyes. The figures left Yi Qingtang stunned by the sight. Several demons were sprinting vigorously. A heavily injured demon was desperately running in front, with several behind in close pursuit. They appeared intent on catching it, and that demon being chased looked exceptionally familiar to Yi Qingtang. Ooh! Yi Qingtang was taken aback. Wasn't this who from the East Demon faction in the Cursed Land? What was going on? Could it be that she had returned to the Cursed Land? Since Yi Qingtang pretended to be a demon to stay hidden in the East Demon faction and inadvertently obtain the deity Ocean, the East faction had been pursued by the other demon camps. Thereafter, Yi Qingtang had used the deity Ocean to leave the Cursed Land. She never imagined that she would return one day, who was still being chased, and this meant that the other demons had not stopped pursuing the East faction. Could it be the deity Ocean inside her sensed the danger she was in and teleported her here? Yi Qingtang could not understand what had happened. In the next moment, she felt dizzy and the valley disappeared before her eyes to be replaced by a bone-chilling cold. When Yi Qingtang opened her eyes again, it was dark and blurry. It was like there was a layer of frozen ice before her. Engulfed by the chilly air, Yi Qingtang could feel the deity Ocean inside her vibrate, its power gradually fading away. It looked like she had guessed correctly. At the moment of imminent death, the deity Ocean had been activated and she was transported back to the Cursed Land. But now, where was she? Yi Qingtang was not sure. After the deity Ocean transported her out of the Cursed Land, she was now trapped beneath a lake that had frozen over. Thick ice layers had formed over the surface of a lake under which she now was trapped. The strangest thing was when Yi Qingtang looked downward, there was no water around her at all. It was just an empty space, and she was floating in the darkness. It was pitch black beneath her, with no end in sight. Just as Yi Qingtang wanted to try and break through the ice, two figures suddenly appeared by the side of the lake. Yi Qingtang immediately halted when she noticed those two figures. One of them was Jin Xinyang, the Heaven Dome Academy teacher whom Yi Qingtang had met in passing in the North Hall. A slender, delicate-looking teenage girl stood beside Jin Xinyang. She was not wearing the uniform of the Heaven Dome Academy, but that of the East Tomb Academy. The East Tomb Academy was not well known in the Second Domain. They were not at all comparable to elite schools like the Heaven Dome Academy, But in this year's Inter-Academy competition, the East Tomb Academy had suddenly performed outstandingly. The sole reason was this teenage girl, who had won the top position in the individual martial arts competition. Chapter 2432, Eavesdropping. 2. Yi Qingtang had not paid too much attention to that, but she heard Luo Sheng say that the East Tomb Academy had sent a girl to the competition. If Yi Qingtang was right, this girl standing beside Jin Qianyang should be the one. Why were these two together here? Yi Qingtang couldn't resist feeling curious. She suddenly recalled something which had been nagging at her. How those from the Heaven Dome Academy had seemed to know of the Inter-Academy competition rules beforehand. That day during the chess matches, Xing Rong had accidentally revealed this information, and it had attracted Yi Qingtang's attention. Jin Qianyang and the girl from the East Tomb Academy did not realize that there was someone beneath the frozen water surface. The two of them came to a stop by the side of the lake. What's going on with the teleportation talismans? Jin Qianyang looked very unhappy. Earlier, they had attacked a team from another academy. Knowing they no longer had a chance to win, that team's teacher had crushed the teleportation talisman, ready to bring his team out of the Wailing Well. But the teleportation talisman failed to work. The teenage girl smiled as she gazed at the distressed-looking Jin Qianyang. "Teacher Jin, why are you so anxious? It was just an accident." Accident? When the Heaven Dome Academy came to an agreement with you guys, there was no mention of this, was there? Jin Qianyang frowned. The teenage girl replied, "Teacher Jin, calm down. We already told your academy of the rules beforehand. I'm sure you already made the necessary preparations. We have cooperated well this whole time. Why get upset over such a small matter?" Small matter? Jin Qianyang's face turned cold. "You never told us about those above Emperor-level monsters inside the Wailing Well." The teenage girl said, "We came to an agreement to let the Heaven Dome Academy reap the biggest rewards in this year's Inter-Academy competition. The prize for winning the team competition is the best. Everything we have done is just to ensure that we fulfill our agreement." Jin Qianyang was looking extremely grim. He grabbed the teenage girl's shoulder. "I don't care what tricks you guys are up to. Those above Emperor-level monsters are already far beyond what my students can handle. And now, the teleportation talismans are defective. You need to let us leave this place now." The teenage girl appeared unafraid of Jin Qianyang's threat and only maintained her smile. "Of course, Teacher Jin, don't worry. Haven't I led you to the exit now?" "What?" Jin Qianyang was taken aback. The teenage girl turned to look at the frozen lake surface. "Although the teleportation talismans are defective, Teacher Jin can lead your students to the bottom of this frozen lake. The Wailing Well's exit is right there." Jin Qianyang was stunned before his eyes turned to look at the surface of the frozen lake. Yi Qingtang had been hiding there all along and didn't expect them to turn their attention to the lake. She thought that she was about to be exposed, but realized that Jin Qianyang and the teenage girl looked like they couldn't see beneath the surface. She was clearly just beside them, but they remained oblivious. "Are you speaking the truth?" Jin Qianyang narrowed his eyes. He moved his hand upward and gripped the teenage girl's neck. The teenage girl remained unmoved. She answered in a docile manner, "Of course I am. Our goal is simple. We only want the people from the other academies to be buried here. The Heaven Dome Academy is our partner. How can we go back on our word to you?" Jin Qianyang smirked. "You'd better make sure your words are true. Taking the lives of so many elite youths from so many academies. What the hell do you guys plan to do?" Chapter 2433, Eavesdropping 3. Whatever our plans are, it will not affect the Heaven Dome Academy. After all, this catastrophe faced by the other academies will greatly reduce their power, and the Heaven Dome Academy will benefit the most from that. As long as we both benefit, there is no need to know the details, the teenage girl remarked dryly. Jin Qianyang glanced at the teenage girl impassively before loosening his grip. Hidden under the ice, Yi Qingtang overheard their entire conversation. The more she heard, the more shocked she became. The Heaven Dome Academy indeed knew of the rules beforehand, and that teenage girl, who the hell was she? She could not possibly just be a normal student from a school like the East Tomb Academy. And based on what they said, they wanted to bury all the other teams in here. Yi Qingtang frowned slightly. The most worrying thing was those above Emperor level monsters. The appearance of those monsters was indeed no coincidence. And from the conversation she just overheard, it was clear that the teenage girl already knew of everything. As for the appearance of those monsters, it was very possible that it had been engineered by the powers backing this teenage girl. Who the hell was she? Just as Yi Qingtang was filled with endless queries, she saw Jin Xinyang take out the little ball from his space ring. He had hidden the ball inside earlier. That ball would follow every team, recording everything. Yi Qingtang had also once tried to hide the ball inside her space ring, but did not succeed. But somehow Jin Xinyang was able to do it. Just as Jin Xinyang was about to release the ball, there was a sudden cracking sound. In the next second, the entire ball shattered. Before Jin Xinyang realized what was happening, he suddenly felt a cold sensation at the back of his neck. With no time to react, he collapsed to the ground, and his head rolled to the side of the lake. The teenage girl had somehow moved behind Jin Xinyang. A faint smile curled up at the corners of her lips. Her fingers were stained with blood as she gazed imperiously at the beheaded Jin Xinyang. Jin Xinyang was more powerful than Yi Qingtang, but he had been oblivious to the danger behind him. Even Yi Qingtang, who had been hiding beneath the ice layer, did not manage to catch a clear look at the teenage girl's attack. This meant that this teenage girl's powers were far beyond that of Yi Qingtang and Jin Xinyang. The girl lifted her hand slightly, and Jin Qianyang's body and head were instantly turned to ash. The ashes swirled with the wind, and the teenage girl suddenly morphed into Jin Qianyang's exact image. Taking out a set of clothes from her space ring, which was identical to Jin Qianyang's, she changed into it before disappearing into the forest behind. Meanwhile, the real Jin Xinyang had already disintegrated into ashes, disappearing without a trace. Apart from Yi Qingtang, who had witnessed everything from beneath the ice layer, no one else knew that Jin Xinyang had been replaced by a copy. After waiting for a while to ensure that the teenage girl had really left, Yi Qingtang finally tried breaking out from under the ice. When she finally emerged and looked back at the frozen surface, she discovered that the spot from which she had emerged did not bear any signs of rupture. The ice layer was like an illusion. No wonder Jin Xinyang and the teenage girl hadn't noticed her. Even so, this realization did not cheer Yi Qingtang up even a little. It was apparent that the teenage girl wanted to make use of this team competition to kill off all the student participants. She had come to a prior agreement with the Heaven Dome Academy, but who would have expected her to suddenly turn around and kill Jin Xinyang before taking on his appearance? Chapter 2434, Suspicions 1. Yi Qingtang gazed forward, her expression calm. This wailing well was rather interesting. At this point, Yi Qingtang was deep in thought. Since the competition started, she had felt that things were a bit off. After entering the wailing well, everything had just spun out of control. Just those above Emperor-level monsters alone were enough to prove that things were abnormal. The wailing well was no friendly place. The academies couldn't have been so careless. They would have investigated all team competition venues thoroughly before allowing their students to enter. However, this wailing well had been an exception. The various academies did not get the chance to investigate the location, but Universe City had assured them that their own men had checked it. Why didn't the Universe City discover any above Emperor-level monsters during their investigation? In addition, why had the teleportation talismans suddenly failed to work? The defective teleportation talismans were no accident. All the talismans had been defective. It was like someone had planned it. Yi Qingtang grew increasingly calm as she started to link up all the different incidents. Everything had been part of a huge setup, and the teams who entered the wailing well were praised to be hunted in this trap. But even now that the situation was clear, they still could not use the teleportation talismans to leave the wailing well. and no one could handle those above Emperor-level monsters. This was a place in hell where one was sent to die. Even enchanting was unable to come up with any good solution, but it seemed that the illusion of an ice lake appeared to be the only exit. Nevertheless, now that things had come to this, Yi Qingtang could not just leave and abandon those students she had brought in. She had to bring them out with her. Meanwhile, in the outside world, through the image transmitted by the ball, when Qi frowned deeply as he watched Luo Sheng's team encounter those terrifying above-emperor-level monsters just moments after entering the Wailing Well. Luo Sheng's team was annihilated. No one survived. How could this be? Veins popped up on the vice president's forehead. When Qi was not the only one. The other academy leaders also expressed their sympathy when they saw what happened to Luo Sheng's team. They grew increasingly worried for their own men. Have we yet to find the Universe City people? When Qi stood up and shouted in rage, the academy leaders shook their heads. We have been searching nonstop, but those Universe City people seem to have left no traces behind at all. It was like they had never been here before. I think we won't be able to find them so soon. Humph! One of the academy leaders snorted. No matter what, we must root them out, even if we have to turn over the entire place. That's right. The Universe City folks were the ones who insisted on using the Wailing Well. They are definitely linked to what's happening now. Actually, on second thought, not only did the Universe City people insist on the Wailing Well, but they were also the ones who set the rule that no special artifacts are allowed. And after the appearance of the above-emperor-level monster, the Universe City folks have all disappeared without a trace. There's no way they are not connected to this matter. Chapter 2435. Suspicions 2. The various academies in Universe City had worked together for so many years, and no such incident had happened in the past before. This was why the academy leaders didn't think too much about it at the beginning. But as more time passed, as blind as the academy leaders had been, they now realized that there were just too many things that had gone wrong. The Universe City people were definitely involved in this. No matter what, we have to find those Universe City folks. If this is really some devious plan of theirs, I will tear them apart. The eyes of one of the academy leaders flashed with cold light. The students enrolled in the various academies were their lifeblood. They were the future of the academies, many of them belonging to all sorts of powerful family clans. Some even had royal relations. If these prominent descendants ended up dying in the Wailing Well just because they had participated in a normal inter-academy competition, how are they going to explain these to the family clans? How are they going to answer for their deaths? For today's catastrophe, regardless of Universe City's role in it, every single academy at present had an undeniable responsibility. If they hadn't been so pliant toward those Universe City people and had insisted on understanding the situation more, today's crisis might have been avoided. The various academies had been competing against each other for so many years, but when faced with such a situation, they miraculously all came together. The Universe City had to answer to them, answer to those dead children, and answer to their family clans. When Qi looked, just as when Qi was stewing in anger, one of the academy leaders exclaimed as he watched the screen beside Wen Qi. What? Wen Qi asked. Look at that screen, the academy leader said. Wen Qi turned toward the screen and was stunned by the image. The screen was showing Luo Sheng's team, who had all been annihilated. A youth was now walking within the lifeless scene. Yi Qing. Wen Qi was astonished when he saw the face of that youth. He was filled with disbelief. How can it be? The academy leaders immediately crowded over to look at the screen in front of Wen Qi. They looked amazed. They had all personally witnessed just how formidable Yi Qing's above-emperor-level monster was. There was no doubt that he had a 0% chance of survival. But now, that youth who should have been utterly destroyed had appeared on the screen in a completely unharmed state. How could one even begin to explain that? Just as everyone was filled with disbelief, the Heaven Dome Academy vice president suddenly frowned. He stared at the stunned Wen Qi. Wen Qi, this might not be an appropriate time for me to voice out certain things, but Yi Qing died right before our eyes. And now, he has appeared again, completely unharmed. Shouldn't you say something about that? when she met the eyes of the Heaven Dome Academy vice president. What do you mean by that? What do I mean? The Heaven Dome Academy vice president gave a cold laugh. A person who should be dead, reappearing well and alive before us. Isn't that strange enough? The other academy leaders fell into deep thought after hearing the Heaven Dome Academy vice president words. Chapter 2436, Suspicions 3. The group had not considered that angle earlier, but after the Heaven Dome Academy vice president comments, they couldn't help having the same suspicions. It was undeniable. The screen had clearly shown the Netherworld Academy teacher, Yes Death. Faced with an above-emperor-level monster, it was impossible to survive. It would be the same fate for anyone. Now that Yi Qing had reappeared, how could they explain it? The minds of the group were hypersensitive now. They already suspected the Wailing Well to be a trap, and now Yi Qing had been resurrected. Zhou Tong, what are you trying to imply? Are you suspecting Yi Qing of being one of the masterminds behind the Wailing Well trap? When Qi stood up, the joy of seeing Yi Qing alive again had been dispelled by the Heaven Dome Academy vice president's suspicion. All that was left now was white-hot fury. Without waiting for the Heaven Dome Academy vice president to reply, when Qi continued, I get it now. You are suspecting that our Netherworld Academy is the mastermind behind the Wailing Well affair. This also means that you think the Netherworld Academy is in cahoots with the University people? When Qi was enraged, if the Netherworld Academy is the mastermind, will we send our own students in? Didn't you see how Luo Sheng died? Or are you blind? Zhou Tong gave a cold laugh. When Qi, why are you so angry? When did I accuse the Netherworld Academy of being the mastermind? I have only mentioned Yi Qing, but I must say that the Netherworld Academy's losses are the smallest amongst the rest of us, right? Everyone fell into deep thought at this. Zhou Tong's words were not without reason. If they were to make some calculations, the Netherworld Academy had only lost one student in Luo Sheng's team. Even the Netherworld Academy's greatest loss, Yi Qing, had now reappeared alive and well when Qi's anger deflated. To be honest, when Qi didn't blame Zhou Tong, if it were him, he would have had the same suspicions. I believe in Yi Qing. I can guarantee that he has nothing to do with this affair. Moreover, who here can say that they saw Yi Qing actually die? When Qi stated in a chilly voice, Okay, then tell us, how did Yi Qing make it out alive? Don't tell me he is also an above-emperor level practitioner? He was able to escape from that monster's fatal attack? His speed was so fast that even we failed to spot it. Zhou Tong insisted. Space technique. One of the leaders suddenly spoke up. Silence fell across the hall. Space technique was a peerless divine technique. Rumor had it that in the entire second domain, only that legendary figure had that ability. Ha ha ha! Zhou Tong guffawed. The peerless divine space technique? Are you kidding me? Why don't you just say that Yi Qing is actually that legendary person from the Temple of Paragon? Even when Qi wouldn't believe that. Space technique. There was no way Yi Qing could control space. When Qi didn't even believe that he would know much of the space technique. Like Zhou Tong, when Qi knew that it was impossible. I was just raising a point. If one uses the space technique, escape from that monster is possible. I am not claiming that Yi Qing knows the space technique. The academy leader shook his head. He also had no idea why such a ridiculous idea suddenly popped into his head. Space technique. Chapter 2437, Suspicions 4. Space technique was not just your usual martial art technique. It was a very mysterious ability concerning the enigmatic realm of space. Even the most talented second domain practitioners who specialized in the study of space were not able to properly explain the space technique. It was said that the space technique was derived from the time technique. If one could master the space technique, he would be able to easily pass through all dimensions of space. As for the time technique, it was even more mysterious and unfathomable. One would be able to peer into the future and reach back into the past. Naturally, the space technique was not a technique for your everyday person. Rumor had it that there was a Space Lord bloodline in one of the high-level martial arts mainlands, and all those of that bloodline were able to control space. In the second domain, only that legendary person from the Temple of Paragon was rumored to have the space technique. No one else had it. So when she found it difficult to believe that Yi Qing knew the space technique and made use of it to escape the above Emperor level monster. There were so many things he needed clarification on, but there was no way to communicate with Yi Qing now. Vice President Zhou Tong, Vice President Wen Qi. I feel that this is not the time to argue over this. If there is really something wrong with Yi Qing, I believe the Netherworld Academy is also in the dark. Yi Qing's resurrection is definitely strange, but at this stage, it also doesn't seem right to say that the Wailing Well affair is connected to Yi Qing or the Netherworld Academy. We need to wait for Yi Qing to come out to clarify matters. Until then, we just have to keep observing. One of the Academy leaders spoke up. Meanwhile, inside the Wailing Well, Yi Qing looked at the dead Luo Sheng and his team, and a slight frown appeared on her face. She had detected the thick stench of blood earlier, but never expected it to be from Luo Sheng and these men. Luo Sheng had shown extra care and concern for her while she was in the Netherworld Academy. She felt very upset at his wretched death. Even so, there was nothing she could do now to change things. She might not even be able to leave this Wailing Well alive. After some deep thought, Yi Qing went over to the remains of Luo Sheng and his team. Death by a single strike. They would not have suffered much. That's not right. Luo Sheng shouldn't be inside the Wailing Well. Yi Qing muttered to herself. Luo Sheng was not on the list of teachers or students bound for the Wailing Well. Also, apart from Luo Sheng, there were the bodies of several Netherworld Academy staff. They were not students or teachers and should not have appeared in the Wailing Well. Yi Qing finally understood after mulling over it. It was probably due to the video recording ball. The outside world already knew of the Wailing Well situation and about the defective teleportation talismans. As for Luo Sheng and his team, if Yi Qing guessed correctly, the vice president had probably sent them into the Wailing Well after discovering the anomalies. Searching the area, Yi Qing tried to see if Luo Sheng and his team had any clues or information on them. She did not find any, but she found quite a number of special artifacts. Yi Qing even found her own space ring. Most of those special artifacts were the items left on the outside by the Netherworld Academy teams, as they had not been allowed to bring them into the Wailing Well. Chapter 2438, Devious Ploy 1. After knowing of the situation inside the Wailing Well, the vice president probably had Luo Sheng bring these things in. Collecting all of the items brought in by Luo Sheng, Yi Qing left without turning back. The Wailing Well was full of danger. Every second inside here held the threat of death and disaster. Although it was unfortunate, Yi Qing did not have time to give Luo Sheng and his team a proper burial. She had a more urgent mission, and that was to find her students. But Yi Qing had also mentally prepared herself for the worst. She had been facing an above-emperor-level monster when she was transported away by the deity Ocean. Yi Qing had no idea what happened after she left. She did not dare to make any predictions either. Going by the powers of Nangong Lai, Qin Feng, and the rest, there was no way they could hold themselves against an above-emperor-level monster. But Yi Qing remembered that during her final moments, Nangong Lai, Lei Yin, and the others were already some distance away from the monster. If they chose to run in the opposite direction, then there was a small chance that they managed to escape alive. Just a small chance, but at least it was not 0%. Yi Qing had been traveling inside the Wailing Well for 2 days, spending every minute and second searching for traces of Mu Ziying and her group. She had to find them alive, or at least see their dead bodies. Without either, Yi Qing would not give up. The previous evening, Yi Qing found the spot where she last disappeared. But she didn't find any of her students' bodies, not even any traces of the Flying Star Academy people or Lu Yuanxiang's team. If they had really perished under the hands of the above-emperor-level monster, there would be traces of them. Even if the bodies were not whole, there would be remnants left behind. But after another full day of searching, she didn't manage to find any signs of Lei Yin, Qin Feng, and the rest. Yi Qingtang moved extremely cautiously inside the Wailing Well. She also personally witnessed several teams from the other academies destroyed by above-emperor-level monsters. It was rather chilly at night. A suffocating sense of oppression permeated the air. Yi Qingtang sat atop a tall tree, constantly surveying her surroundings. Those above-emperor-level monsters would become more active at night. The ground shook constantly, as if some hidden terror was deep underground. Could it be that there's something underground? Yi Qingtang frowned as she gazed afar. The tremors became increasingly intense. Compared to the previous 2 days, the vibration was clearly different now. Those monsters all seemed to come from underground. There must be some linkage there between these two factors. In addition, there was that mysterious girl at the Illusion Ice Lake 2 days ago. As stupid as Yi Qingtang might be, she was able to link everything together and guess that there was something extraordinary inside the Wailing Well. Don't tell me the appearance of those above-emperor-level monsters is due to... Yi Qingtang frowned as she mulled over this. The image of the girl at the illusory ice lake appeared in her mind's eye again. The teams who entered the Wailing Well were no match for those above-emperor-level monsters at all. What puzzled Yi Qingtang the most was if the girl was really able to control those monsters. Why did she have to trick the academy students and teachers into coming into the Wailing Well? What was the motive behind such an action? She clearly possessed very high powers, so there was no need for her to waste time with these petty tricks. Or perhaps she was not the one controlling those monsters. Chapter 2439, Devious Ploy 2. As the thoughts continued to circle within her mind, Yi Qingtang felt a headache coming along. At the end of the day, everything that had happened, whether it was part of some nefarious scheme or something else, had nothing to do with her. All these were not carried out against her. Yi Qingtang didn't wish to get involved in a messy situation and had no intention of probing the matter. In her previous life, Yi Qingtang had no grand illusions about the way of things. She had her own set of principles and stood aloof from matters that did not concern her. But after being reborn, her principles from her previous life had once and again been broken. Inside the Wailing Well, Yi Qingtang could have escaped in one piece, but she chose to stay without any hesitation. How could she abandon Qin Feng, Nangong Lai, and the rest of them? Yi Qingtang never treated the Netherworld Academy as her home, but even so, the president and vice president had treated her with true sincerity. She admitted to herself that she could not just leave now and cut off all ties with the Netherworld Academy. The harsh wind was bone-chillingly cold in the deep night. Atop a tall tree, Yi Qingtang slowly opened her eyes and gave a soft sigh. The Wailing Well was just too strange. There was the ever-present threat of those above-emperor-level monsters. One could not let down one's guard for even a second. Otherwise, death might have been served at any time. In her previous life, she had lived a wretched existence. Being reborn was the greatest gift from the heavens. In this life, she had also experienced way too much and had also encountered all sorts of situations before. Was the Wailing Well more strange than the Dragon Vein mystic realm? More weird than the immortal and Buddha mystic realm? More dangerous than all the life and death situations she had experienced in the first mainland? Yi Qingtang had high ambitions. She wanted to fully explore the wider martial arts world and find her birth parents. She also wanted to get to the bottom of the mystery behind her heart of the heavenly Tao. How could she die in this stupid Wailing Well? This was just a stumbling block in her real path. A stumbling block that was obstructing her raging ambitions. Yi Qingtang swore that she would crush every single stumbling block that tried to prevent her from moving forward. The tremors have stopped. After some time, Yi Qingtang surveyed her surroundings as she muttered to herself. Over the past few days, Yi Qingtang closely observed any changes on the ground surface. Every day, toward the latter part of the night, the tremors will lessen and sometimes even come to a complete stop. Although she had no idea what this meant, she did not care. All she wanted was to find Qin Feng, Nangong Lai, and the rest. As for the changes underground and those above Emperor-level monsters, they were none of her business. At this point, Yi Qingtang was standing atop the tall tree, surveying her surroundings. Every time the tremors completely stopped, those monsters would also halt their activity. The latter part of the night in the Wailing Well was comparatively safer. There was a water spring several thousand meters away up ahead. Without any hesitation, Yi Qingtang flew toward that spring. It was dead silent in the deep night. There were no bird cries or cicadas singing. It was like they were completely cut off from nature. All that was left was the whistle of a passing cold wind. As she had spotted the spring from afar, it didn't appear too big. But when she arrived at the spot, Yi Qingtang realized that the water spring was ridiculously expansive. Even more astonishing was the fact that there were no traces of blood at all inside that spring. Chapter 2440. Big Yellow Dog Yi Qingtang immediately used her hands to scoop up some water to drink. The spring water was crisp and sweet. After several days of strong winds, Yi Qingtang was covered in dirt and dust. Looking at the clear spring waters, Yi Qingtang couldn't resist. She shed her fake male identity, letting down her waist-length black hair. The wind was harsh and cold, but it was nothing to Yi Qingtang. Feeling relaxed, she washed away the dirt on her body. Yi Qingtang soaked inside the spring. It had been a long time since she felt so relaxed. Since the central mainland, and even while she was in the second domain, she had been on her guard, fighting with her wits or fists every minute of the day. It was way too long since she enjoyed this level of relaxation. Just as Yi Qingtang was enjoying this rare treat, she suddenly stiffened when she caught sight of something from the corner of her eye. She dragged her clothes, which she had placed by the side of the spring, into the water and put them back on. A pair of black eyes were staring at her about half a foot away. Yi Qingtang frowned deeply, but after she got a clear look, she gradually relaxed. It was a dog, also soaking in the spring. Its head was above the surface, two ears standing straight up and staring at Yi Qingtang. Human and dog exchanged looks, sizing each other up. Yi Qingtang was feeling rather puzzled. How did a dog appear in a dangerous place like the Wailing Well? And Yi Qingtang was sure that it was a dog and not some demon. It was an ordinary dog like those kept by families to guard the house. Although it was very strange for a dog to appear like this, Yi Qingtang didn't think too much of it. After all, dogs were a common creature. Why are you inside the spring? Yi Qingtang smiled at the dog. Aren't you cold? What happened next went completely beyond Yi Qingtang's expectations. It's still all right. The temperature is fine, but the waters are a bit too deep. It's an effort for me to keep paddling. The dog replied, candidly in human language. Yi Qingtang was dazed by the fact that this dog could speak. Her smile froze on her face. This little dog, did it just speak? Normal animals were different from demons, especially for a common creature like this dog. She had never heard of a dog who could speak. What kind of thing are you? Yi Qingtang snapped out her trance. In the blink of an eye, she leaped out of the spring onto the shore, all the while staring guardedly at the dog. Having lived so many years, Yi Qingtang never expected that she would ever be so guarded against a common dog. The dog looked rather annoyed at Yi Qingtang's comments. So rude. What do you mean by thing? Am I a thing? I'm not just a thing. Can't you see with your eyes what am I? Yi Qingtang, are you really a dog? Yi Qingtang asked. Yi Qingtang swore that this thing inside the spring was no demon. It was clearly a common dog, the type used to guard houses. Dog? Did you just call me a dog? The dog stared at Yi Qingtang. Are you joking? Aren't you a dog? Yi Qingtang was confused. Of course not. Chapter 2441. Big Yellow Dog 2. What the hell are you? Yi Qingtang was curious. I am a canine, the dog spoke fluently. Yi Qingtang was speechless. Wasn't that the same thing as a dog? Dog sounds so insulting. You are so rude, not showing me any respect. I am a canine, Not a dog, the dog continued. Yi Qingtang did not reply. She could clearly feel that this dog was not a demon. Not only that, she could not detect any power inside this dog. This meant that it was indeed a normal dog. The only difference between the common dog and this one here is that it could talk. Other than that, it posed no threat to her. Before the dog could say anything else, Yi Qingtang scooped it up from the spring. It was a big yellow dog and rather good-looking according to human standards. It might not be pretty enough to be a dog model, but it was not bad. The big yellow dog immediately shook its fur after being scooped up, spraying countless water droplets onto Yi Qingtang's face. Before Yi Qingtang could speak, the big yellow dog fixed its eyes on her. "You are a human," Yi Qingtang replied. "You are a dog, and I am your father," the big yellow dog retorted. Yi Qingtang. When she came to her senses, she glared at it. She was going to kill it. The big yellow dog hastily took 2 steps back when it felt Yi Qingtang's aggressive aura. "What are you planning to do? Don't tell me you want to torture a dog. I'm feeling a little hungry now." Yi Qingtang stared at the dog and gave it a slight smile. "Hungry? There's nothing to eat here," the big yellow dog replied instinctively. Yi Qingtang continued to stare quietly at the big yellow dog with that smile on her face. As if it suddenly realized something, the big yellow dog hurriedly said, "Stand there and don't move. I will go find something for you to eat. I will be back soon." With that, the big yellow dog turned to flee with its tail between its legs. But there was no way Yi Qingtang would let that big yellow dog escape so easily. With lightning-fast reflexes, she grabbed its hind leg. "Let's see how you can run now." "You preposterous! Let go of my leg!" The big yellow dog cried out in panic. "Is there still a God? You look so sweet and lovely but harbor such evil thoughts. You want to eat me? I want to eat you if you answer my questions honestly. How dare you? Do you know who I am?" The big yellow dog shouted. "Oh, I am indeed rather interested to know. Please tell me who you are." Yi Qingtang was curious. Yi Qingtang had lived 2 lives, but had never seen such a strange thing. A common dog was able to speak. The world was wide and nothing was impossible. Moreover, this talking dog had appeared inside the Wailing Well. Things were probably not as simple as they appear to be. "Let me tell you, it doesn't matter who I am," the big yellow dog shouted. Without giving Yi Qingtang a chance to reply, it continued. "I have people above me. People above you." Yi Qingtang was taken aback. She instinctively glanced above the big yellow dog. "I mean, I have people behind me," the big yellow dog corrected. "Behind?" Yi Qingtang looked behind the big yellow dog. The big yellow dog. "Do you really understand English? I mean that I have powerful people backing me. You cannot afford to offend me." You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.